Today I'm going to show you guys how to paint your wheels. Today I'm going to be spray painting my wheels at home. I'm going to run over a few things that you can do to get a really good job yourself. Preparation is always the key. You really want to make sure you sand back all the old paint or use paint stripper or something like that. And then you really want to make sure as well that your wheels are clean using wax and grease remover. Once your wax and grease remover is all dried off, I'll show you a few basic things you can do at home to get a really good job out of a spray can. You want to make sure there's no draft in the garage if you're inside, or if you're outside, try to pick a day without wind and preferably a sunny day. What I've done in here, I've put some blankets and some drop cloths along the bottom of the roller doors, that way no wind can get in and kick up any dust that's inside. That'll really help us get a good result. First thing you want to do, once everything's prepared, you use some etch primer if it's bare metal or just regular primer, and then you put your color coat on top and then clear coat on top of that. The reason I've hung these up like this is I can actually get a whole layer of paint on, front and back, in one go. If I had these on the table or something like that, you'd have to paint the top and then let it dry and then flip it over and then paint the back side. It'll probably take twice as long to do that, but if you can, hang them up like this, thread the rod through one of the lug nut holes, that way it doesn't matter if there's no paint there because that'll basically come off immediately the first time you put the wheels on. So let's get into painting them. I'll show you a few tips and tricks that I've learned over the years. One of them, just put a heater in the garage. It's a good thing to get the heat up in the room, it'll help the paint cure. And the other thing is, put your spray cans in a bucket of hot water, and the hot water will help loosen up all the contents in the paint cans. So that way, when you shake them up, the paint will mix in the can properly, and when you spray it on, you'll get a much smoother result. Another thing I forgot to mention before was as well, hang your wheels up first before you clean them. Otherwise, if you clean them and then pick them up and handle them with your bare hands, there's lots of oils and grease and things like that on your skin, and that'll get on your wheels and that'll ruin the paint job. So hang it up, then clean them, then paint them. If you've got a heat gun or something like that, or a blowtorch, it's a good idea to just heat the wheels up. Not only will that help the paint stick better, but it'll also get rid of any leftover wax and grease remover or potentially any water if it's still there. Make sure you read the instructions on the back of the can as well. It'll tell you to shake it for 2 or 3 minutes. Once you start seeing little indentations on the bottom of the can, you know that's when the paint is really well mixed. And if it's been sitting in water, just dry off all the water and shake it up somewhere away from the wheels so you don't get any water on the wheels. If this is your first time painting, don't worry, you can practice on somewhere it doesn't matter, like where the tyre goes in this area, or you can start on the back, and even still at the end of the day, it's just primer. We can let it dry overnight and then sand back any paint runs or anything like that. Now the technique I like to use is just gently moving from left to right. You want to keep spraying the paint out of the can even though you've moved past the workpiece. It's a good idea to hold the can as vertical as possible. Remember to keep shaking the can as you're painting. This will just help keep the paint in the can mixed. This will give you good even cover as I'm demonstrating here. That's the first coat done. It's important when spray painting, start light and then get heavier and heavier. You don't want to start painting really heavy, you'll get paint runs immediately. If you start light, you let that dry off and then every layer of paint after that has something to hold on to. Now with edge primer, that helps the paint hold to the metal, and then you put primer on top of that. That'll help fill up any scratches or dents or anything like that. And then once you've got a perfectly flat and smooth surface, you can do your color coat. Now I am ashamed to admit it, but there are a few paint runs in this primer. So tomorrow, once the paint's dry, I'll show you how to sand that out and then fix it up, and then we'll be ready for colour. The primer's well and truly dried, so I'm ready to fill up any road rash on the edge of the rims. I'm going to use this blade putty. This is just one part, you just scrape it out of the can and it's good to go. You can use a two part. So this has a hardener that goes with it as well, and you mix them together. Normally you'd apply two part before primer, and the instructions on this can tell you to apply it after primer. So what I'm going to do now is just apply this, let it dry, and then I can sand back the putty and I can sand back any paint runs in the primer, and after that we'll put the colour coat on. You can see I've got some damage here on the rim. I'll try to fill that up, sand it back, and hopefully we won't even know it's there. This putty's only meant to be used lightly. You don't want to be using it for big holes or big defects. For that you'd use something like a two-part body filler, but if this is only small imperfections, you can use the blade putty. I'm going to be using 180 grit sandpaper. These are both technically the same, but you can see here it says, it would say waterproof paper. That means you can use this with water. This stuff you can't. The whole point of using water is to try capture the dust and it doesn't clog up the sandpaper as quickly. But the downside is you got to really make sure the wheels are dry again after you've sanded them so that you can paint them again. I've got to wait about 45 minutes for that filler to dry, so while I'm waiting I can start focusing on sanding out those paint runs. Alright, I've just taken the wheel down to make it easy to work on. I've got some 240 grit sandpaper here. It's a good idea just to go over the whole rim with this and sand out any dust specks or anything like that while you can. All the filling's done, it's been sanded back, and we've given the wheels a good clean. We can put another coat of primer on now just to cover up any bare metal, and then we can shoot the colour. It's a good idea to give them another clean once you hang them back up, just to get rid of any fingerprints.